All right, everybody, we're starting our module 2 on positive leadership, and the focus of this module is on organizational change. Now, when we talk about change, I want you to be thinking about this from two distinct perspectives. One is that you are going to change, right? Doesn't matter what type of leadership I engage with, what type of leadership I learn. I hopefully will change. I'll evolve a little bit as I'm learning and growing in terms of my leadership. So part of this change is you. You're going to change. The second part of the change is when you're introducing new ideas and new concepts, you hopefully are leading a change effort, right? Your team is going to change, the organization is going to change. And so in order to do that this week, you probably saw in the introduction of the module where you had a chance to read through some of the content for this week that the focus really is on John Kotter's model, which includes these 8 distinct steps. And so the first step of the model is that we have to have a sense of urgency. So anytime we're going through a change, there has to be a reason for the change, right? Sometimes when I teach this to corporate groups, I'll put up an image of a person on a kayak, and then you say, "Oh, this looks so great and so fun," and then I'll show the image extended, and there's a shark behind them, right? The shark is kind of that urgency that that person needs. Now, you don't always have sharks in the stuff that you're doing, but it's possible that you may feel like there's competitors. It's possible that you may feel like your organization is a little bit stagnant, that it's time for some positive energy or some change. And so that sense of urgency is critical. The second step is about building that guiding coalition. So who are the people that I need to make sure know that the urgency is there? Right? I'm working with organizations right now on developing artificial intelligence information and using that in their organizations. Well, each of the organizations I work with is spending a lot of time thinking about who should be in the room. And it's not just the people that are excited about it, right? It's got to be people that have concerns. It's got to be people that are excited, and it's got to be people that can make change. And so, with that in mind, you're building that coalition of people that we're going to have that are going to be the champions, or at least the discussion, the board of advisors for the change we're trying to create. That's part of this positive leadership and change. The third step is that we need to create or form a strategic vision. So we need to define where we're going. So in the case of introducing positive leadership principles, we want to talk about what that looks like for us. So we want to have a more transparent organization. We want to have a more caring organization. We want to have a more collaborative organization. Whatever those things might be, we want to identify what that vision is of where we're going. Now we get everyone involved, right? So now we get our guiding coalition and we try to expand our capacity by increasing the number of people engaged. So that's the enlist a volunteer army, if you will. And then the next step is about enabling action by removing barriers. So, what are some of the challenges I think people are going to find? This is where I give them the resources to accomplish the task that they need. I make sure that they know what's expected of them, and I make sure that they've got what they need to do it. And so that's that enabling action. The next step is about short-term wins. So, when we're going through a change, it's really important to have milestones, things that help us to know we're on the right path. Sometimes those milestones are just check-in points. Sometimes it's legitimate accomplishment of tasks, right? And so we need to make sure that those are clear and that we take advantage of those to keep the momentum and the excitement going. And then we sustain acceleration by making sure that we're making little adjustments as needed, right? We may not have had everyone in our guiding coalition that we needed. So we need to get them involved. So we try and find more people that can engage. We may need to make some adjustments to the change. Maybe some of the positive practices we were trying to adopt don't work in my organization. So I make some adjustments. And then finally, the last step is about institutionalizing the change. So think for a minute if you were to introduce positive leadership practices in your organization and they never made it to the onboarding materials. They were never a part of someone coming in. Very quickly, you would revert back to where you were. This step is the one I think most organizations miss when they're trying to create a culture, when they're trying to create change, is institutionalizing it, putting it in my policies and procedures, adding it to my onboarding, making sure that I continue to communicate about it. I've seen leaders that have put it in their signature. If there's a specific change, they're like, don't forget to check out this website, which has our values. Whatever it is, institutionalize that change is critical. As you look at the materials this week, you're going to notice there's a lot of articles. And I, again, don't expect you to read all of them. I would encourage you to take a look at David Cooperrider's article. It's really interesting. It's a different perspective of change, particularly from a positive leadership perspective. And then also the Alan Dushman article is really interesting because it's going to talk about a situation where people have literally life or death and they don't change. And so it reminds us that it's not as simple as that, right? It's not about threats and rewards. Sometimes that helps people to change, but really it's about, is it internalized in me that I need to make the change? And what motivates me individually, right? So again, for me, that article, there's a popular press version of it, there's a video you can watch. It just helps you to see that change is not always about sticks and carrots, right? It's about internalizing the change. It's about, there's a lot of different ways for me to go about this. Because I know, especially if you're creating a new startup business, if you're getting into entrepreneurship, you don't always have the resources to have sticks and carrots. But we can be really intentional about defining the why and getting behind the work that we're doing. So, again, hopefully that's helpful. Excited to be able to kind of engage in this idea of change and change leadership. I hope you enjoy this week's material. And again, if there's anything that I can do to help, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks, everybody.